Welcome, everybody. We are so excited to have another episode of the Ecstatic Business Show. And today I get the pleasure of introducing you to Melanie McCool, who is a certified hypnotherapist. And we're going to talk about her story of how she fell into burnout, which I think at some point most of us get into a place of overwhelm and stress. We're going to be talking about what is overwhelm, what isn't overwhelm, and how she was able to navigate through it using subconscious tools and techniques. And we're going to kind of unpack that because I've used hypnosis a lot and I love it. I understand that it freaks some people out, but that is not what it is. And how you can leverage it to really crack through this, she calls it a wall that keeps you from getting to the life and the business that you love. So, Melanie, I'm so grateful that you were able to join us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to hear, how you've been able to make those shifts with hypnosis as well, hypnotherapy.
Yeah,
It's really a powerful modality. That's
it
why
is.
I'm here.
Yeah, so share your sacred success story, the time that you sort of hit rock bottom and
Mhm.
how that shifted everything for you.
Yeah, so I would say that been an entrepreneur since 2000, and I probably actually burned out at least 4 times before the big one. Okay, so first I'm going to say, I think we all have an idea of what burnout might feel like. It's that I can't really rest. Rest doesn't restore me. I'm feeling not only negative, cynical, and perhaps even like resentful of the very business that you started in the first place. And then boom, unproductive. Boom. So I think I'd probably experienced burnout about 4 times until what I call the big one. And essentially, I didn't even know it was happening. By the time I realized that I'd gone to the other side, when my brain was not functioning any longer, literally, I had burned out my adrenals probably months before and had burned out half of my thyroid. Okay, so before I even knew how sick I was, I literally have half left. So that's that. Um, and and it was really scary. This is the when I said my brain changed, that's what the mental syndrome of burnout actually can do on the far extreme. This isn't just, something that we fight through and it's just part of entrepreneurship and we just do it. No, it is a mental syndrome. Brain changes happen, and I was scared to death that I didn't even have the mental capacity to support my kids. They're why I started this thing in the first place, right? And yeah, I was worried about myself too. Like, oh my gosh, I don't have a brain in my head, zero entrepreneurial creativity. Like, I could make money from nothing before. And here I was going, I don't have a creative thought. I've lost my mind. Who am I? What am I going to be? What am I going to do? It was really, really scary. And you're muted, hun. It's okay.
I'm hiding out in a hotel lobby at the moment. We're
Oh,
gonna
good
get on a
job.
plane here soon. Yeah. So yeah, it's always fun wherever I am in the world. We're making the show happen.
Do
I was
it.
just gonna double down on the effects of stress because uh, when I was planning a wedding in 4 months flat. I was working full time, preparing to move for said future fiance, like husband, and I was finishing my master's degree. And like
Whoa.
all of that was packed into such a tiny window that I realized my brain just started rewiring itself. And I'd
Mm,
go to reach for a word and the word wouldn't be there. Or
right.
I would say the antonym, like I'd mean hot, but I would say cold. And that happens to us on a regular basis. But I didn't hear it. I didn't
Mm,
notice that I had said the wrong word. And
mm,
that's when I was like, oh crap. Like we're doing, like, I was handling the stress externally. Like you wouldn't know. I wasn't like jittery or whatever, but I had just so internalized the stress that it was literally rewiring my brain and I was having wrong synapses. And so I think it's sometimes we feel okay on the surface
mm.
and we don't know, we don't realize how deeply we have suppressed that anxiety, that stress, that overwhelm until it does start appearing as brain problems. So
Yeah. totally.
Yeah, I am very keenly aware with what you what
Yeah, then it's a
yeah.
it's chronic unmitigated stress, and we all
Mhm,
know, and the World Health Organization calls it a mental syndrome.
mhm,
But we also know that up to 75 or more percent of doctors' visits are from stress. So even though the World Health Organization doesn't call burnout what killed my thyroid, uh,
mhm.
if you actually get to the far extreme of it, you know that they go hand in hand. So
Right.
chronic unmitigated stress causes brain changes. That's what burnout is. It's you
Mhm.
can't rest. You got that, you know, detachment from your work. Like I can't do anything, and you don't do anything.
Yeah.
That's awful. And they say that it could take up to 16 weeks of a sabbatical to actually heal
Mm.
your brain. Now, who has time for that? I
Wow.
had to. I had no choice. I was out. I mean, I was
Mhm.
just out of the picture. I used to I was a teacher, speaker, trainer, leader. I used to do business. I couldn't walk out of my house. I could barely walk. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's one level, as I said, I probably burned out in the sense that you were talking about just now,
Right.
4 or 5 times in the past. And I might like drop out of the business that I was in for a little bit and then come back. And here's what's really wild is that cycle goes on, but that underlying stress, it begins to just, it lays on top of each other
It accumulates.
until it kind of gets to this point where you're actually ill. And people don't associate, don't take the two. But
Yeah.
and you did mention the word anxiety, and we have to recognize that some of us come from our childhood with a higher level of this underlying, level of stress that we just carry anyway. And then you put entrepreneurship on it, and school, like you just said, and
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
and boom, you're taken out. And not everybody recognizes how serious it can be. And thank you for having me here today, because this is really what
Yeah.
I'm here to do, is to help people, women in particular,
Mhm.
to
Bring
realize
awareness to this.
there is a way for you to manage that stress in a very short amount of time a day, so that you don't trip the wire, so that you don't.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so let's go into that. So I know that you explained like you were already eating healthy, you were already doing meditations, you were already doing a lot of the things that people recommend for
Hmm.
managing their stress and helping themselves to stay regulated, and that wasn't working. So kind of how did this lead you into the world of hypnotherapy, hypnosis? And what did you notice as you started getting into this field?
So, as you said, I was meditating, but I recognized that there was something that was essentially keeping me from slowing down the internal chatter. Okay.
Hmm.
So there was this program essentially that was running in the background, and a lot of it was, there was an inner critic in there. There was
Hmm.
comparisonitis. There was all of
Hmm.
this stuff, is imposter syndrome. All this stuff is running, and I
Yeah.
would do them. And then I did. I actually say I was meditating like a mofo. Okay, now how do you do that? Well, trust me, I was trying to save my life, and I think it
Yeah.
did. I think it really did. It keep me from possibly having more heart problems or anything like that.
Hmm.
But when I learned, but I actually felt like there was a wall that I
Hmm.
couldn't get past. And so I did some research, and it popped right up on the internet,
Hmm.
that hypnotherapists actually are, and there's other subconscious modalities that are all in the realm of the deepest subconscious work, right?
Hmm.
That they could get past that wall and could help me. I said, well, fast, please.
Yeah.
I'd like to have my brain back. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And so I saw the hypnotherapy myself, and it was like night and day.
Mm.
And this is what, so I've got a 5-step method for people to accelerate business growth without burnout.
Okay.
So what you just touch on is that there's people will tell you what to do to to mitigate stress, get more rest, and they'll have a whole list.
Yeah.
Yoga, breathe, eat well. I'm like, I do all that. And then they'll say, and enjoy life, work-life balance. So what's that mean? Oh, don't forget who you are. If you love to dance, dance. If you love to hang with friends, take the time to, do that. Okay. But wait a minute. what's going on here?
Mhm.
The number one source of 24/7 stress right here.
Yeah.
And so when I sought hypnotherapy and I was able to see and really undo and unwire a lot of the nonsense programming that was in my head, I went from unable to work and unable to do the things that I love, like hike right here where I live and everything, within a matter of months. I essentially healed my body and my mind and decided I was going to be a hypnotherapist.
Mm.
I was like, well, I'm not going to go back to my old life. I'm going to do this incredibly powerful work. And I'm going
Yeah.
to do it with the people that I've been working with since 2000. So I've been, a sales and marketing consultant and a trainer for years, led
Mhm.
international sales teams. I was like, oh, all of those people could use a little bit of getting rid of the inner critic and all of the other things, and they could excel. They could actually experience what they want consciously without fighting self-sabotage, which
Mhm.
is what's going on in here.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So you had the 5 steps. You mind walking us through what the 5 steps
Yeah.
are?
So essentially, step one is to mitigate stress every day.
Mm. Mhm.
And I do recommend things like heart coherence or any kind of meditation. But heck, things that mitigate stress are like laughing your head off
Mhm.
and taking a walk and
Yeah.
anything that in the act of it, you're coming into yourself, your peace, and you're allowing that and purposely allowing that stress to dissolve. So
Mhm.
that's number one. But something like heart coherence actually neutralizes the biochemistry of stress. So you've got adrenaline and cortisol, your cortisol gets out of control.
Right.
So something like heart coherence, it brings you the happy dose, dopamine,
Yep.
oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And it
Mhm.
is a neutralizer. So something
Mhm.
like that every day and lots of times a day. Why not?
Right.
That's one that's most powerful. And then
Beautiful.
two is to realize that you can do that all you want, but it's like you have a fire extinguisher, and if you go jumping into the fire every day, it's exhausting.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
step two is to work with the number one source of 24/7 stress, and that's
Mhm.
where the hypnosis comes in. That's where
Mm.
changing at the level of your limiting beliefs of about yourself, your place in the world as it relates to success, money, health, love, whatever that underlying programming is that's keeping you from living your best life, is
Mhm.
actually addressing that. And when you do that, well, it's seemingly miraculous because it's as if you've been riding around life with this awful flat tire, like
Mhm.
I believe I can either have love or money. Oh, well, that's an
Right.
awful
Right.
or you carry around, get that fix, and life changes in ways that you might not, think was possible. And
Mhm.
then it also becomes easier for you to say yes to what we call, in the surface, work-life balance. To
Right.
say, yes, I should enjoy this type of, time spent doing things that I love, and I can still have my business boom.
Right.
It's not either or, babe.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then step 4 would be to, okay, so from this place, from a new mind,
Mhm.
now that you've got your mind working, essentially it's at peak performance. And from a new mind, you consider what are my next right steps?
Mm.
And you're going to come up with far different ways to run your business when
Oh yeah.
you're thinking of it in ease and flow, not just on a superficial level, but you actually have that going in a subconscious. You're asking the
Right.
right questions. Well, take action from a new mind is step 5. And then you can actually watch what I mean, I did this for myself, which is exciting, but it's more exciting to see my clients to do things like working half the time, making twice the money, and not just them, but as a ripple effect with the people that are around them. So more
Yeah.
money, less work because you sorted it out here.
Right. And I think that's the thing that most people don't understand is how much our identity beliefs feed
Mm,
into our external manifestation.
Totally.
So the classic book Psycho-Cybernetics, he talks about how in our mind we have the stuff that comes out of us, but it's because of the stuff that's already in us.
Yeah.
So the work that you're trying, so cybernetics, that idea is that we can set a set point, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like your thermostat in your house. You have a set point for your weight, for your income levels, for your happiness levels. And it's like you have set the dial and said, this is the level that I am worthy of. Let's say it's 74 degrees,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
if things in your life get too good, it'll bring it back down to 74 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
If things
That's
get
right.
too bad, it'll bring it back up to 74 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So for you guys who are listening, it's recognizing that this level that you are playing at, your level of productivity, your level of love, your level of happiness, your level of wealth, this is where you are comfortable and
Mm-hmm.
where you have set your identity. And you said, I am worthy of this much, not less, not more. And that until we get to those core identity statements, and this is the work that you do, Melanie, right? And shift the worthiness experience,
Yeah.
then we finally get to start experiencing in our day-to-day life, oh, the weight just suddenly dropped off, or oh,
Mm-hmm.
I suddenly just got a raise, or oh, I suddenly am able to keep money in my savings account where I never was able to keep money in my
Right.
savings account before,
Yeah.
right? And so it does feel magical when you can do this shift. So I want to go back to step number 2, because I think that's where this all shifts, because
Yeah.
as you were walking through it, step 1 is what I would call like mental hygiene, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Totally.
how do you just
Make sure.
maintain,
Yeah.
right? Or the metaphor that came to mind as you were talking was like bailing out water from your basement. Like, my
Mm-hmm.
basement keeps flooding. I'm going to start doing all of this work to just carry the water out of the basement every day.
Every day.
But step 2 is asking yourself, why is there water in my basement
My
every
basement
day?
flooded. What's going on? Should I
Let's
do
go
something about this,
track
or should I just keep like this exhausting work every day? Yeah, totally.
Right.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
so that's where we go hunt down, where did the pipe crack, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where is the water coming from? And we track it back to its source. So unpack that one. What is the work that you do to help people? Like, it's obviously in our blind spot, right? Because if we
Totally blind
knew
spot. Listen,
that this was the program running us, we would fix it. So
look,
how do we access that?
the thing is, I had no doubt that I'd come from a incredibly rough childhood, and there was poverty programming all over the talk and what I heard and what I experienced. That was all conscious. I knew that, which is how I was able, what I guess actually how, which is why I
Yeah,
worked to change that story for myself and my family. Right.
right.
So I did the work to prove that, I could change that. But meanwhile, at the subconscious level, those programs were still running and running in a way that even when I was earning, more, I was earning an income that's far more than I would ever need. And I could sleep for a year and I would still be fine. I would work 14 hours a day because there was a program running that said,
Never
you're
enough.
no, it wasn't a never enough one. It
Oh,
was,
okay.
you're a jerk if you're not working hard for your money. People who get money easy must be doing it through nefarious means. So I had to prove that I was a good and righteous person by working all these
Ah,
freaking hours. Doing what? So you said, if I think it takes hard work to make money, well, then I created
yeah.
harder ways to make that money, which was never necessary. So
Right.
that's the thing. We could know it consciously, and that's one thing. And
Mm-hmm.
you did talk about the thermostat. We've got a happiness set point. We've got
Mm-hmm.
a financial thermostat. That's
Yep.
all at the level of programming. And you said, if you're comfortable, well, most people say, well, I'm not freaking comfortable here. No, you're not comfortable. It's what's familiar. Okay.
Mm,
So your
good
mind's
choice.
going to bring you back to familiar. And my work actually helps you to raise your happiness and your financial thermostat at the same time. But it's not just about the worthiness factor. That's something I think many people are familiar with. What most people don't recognize are what I call values conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
And they're running a lot of the program. So, and those values conflicts can be reinforced. So, for example, if you watched, or if you watched generations, or your family watched, I mean, we're all living literally with the ghosts of many generations past when it comes to
Yep.
success, money, love, all of the stories,
Absolutely.
many generations.
Yeah.
And so if you saw, and you're not thinking this consciously, I promise you, but if you saw somebody who was very successful monetarily, but neglected their family
Mhm.
or neglected their health. So you've got the story that in your little head said,
Yeah.
well, I'm not going to make a whole lot of money because then I'll have a heart attack like Uncle John. So even if you think consciously, I have this goal because I think that I know that, excuse me, good people do good things with their money. So even if consciously you have this desire to, make a change in the world with the money you're creating with the powerful work that you do, if a
Mhm.
part of you, the conflict, says, but you'll die. Well, guess
Yeah.
what? Your mind does everything it can to keep you from death. Okay. It keeps you
Right.
alive. And so even if you're not going to see this, these are the things, these are the conflicts you're not going to know consciously. And they are
Right.
ones that are running so much of the show. I mean, the idea that women could either be successful or they could have love and family.
Right.
Hello,
Mhm.
over and over again. So,
Yeah.
and there's many more of these that are layered in, and seeing them is one thing. Doing the work to dissolve them is
Mhm.
what we do in the deep work, and that, the ripple effect is just, you just don't even know what happens when you actually know at a core level that it's an and. It was never either or. You can have love and money. You can have love and, or rather, money and health. It's usually, we're talking about the two diopposed, right?
Yeah.
Diamet. So that's the work, is in recognizing that there's all of this stuff that's under there. You don't even realize it's running your thoughts, where your thoughts are there. And then they're
Right.
creating certain feelings, determining your actions and your outcome. So you can do all of this affirmations work. And if it goes against those values conflicts, it can make you sick,
Right.
because your brain's going, you don't want to be wealthy, you could die. You don't want to be wealthy, you won't be a good mom.
Yeah.
Like, literally.
Yep.
So you're like, but I want, and affirmations do diddly if they're in direct conflict with those kinds of limiting beliefs. Yeah.
Right. Your conscious mind just doesn't have the power to overcome the
No.
subconscious. It
And
just,
that's
that's,
why I
yeah.
burned out that's why I went, I had no
Yeah.
idea. But thankfully I found it. And when I saw the patterns, for myself, it was like my entire life, and I work with tens of thousands of people over time, all of
Yeah.
them who are adults who had big dreams, and they're consciously,
Hmm.
and I would see them self-sabotage. I'd had people that were learning from me for 10, 11 years, and they were still just sabotage. And
Hmm.
I was like, and I knew that there was something deeper for them to work with. I didn't have the permission to tell them, and I didn't have the tools to help them. When I
Hmm.
realized that I could do it with hypnotherapy, I was like, oh, so now I can do the work that I'm called to do, which is help
Yeah.
adults to get rid of their limiting beliefs so they can do what they said they wanted to do in the first place. Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's
I
do it.
love this. I love this so much. And I want to open it up for you guys who are listening.
Oh, cool.
Feel free to put your questions, if you're on Facebook, put them on the Facebook group, or
Mhm.
YouTube, or if you're watching here in the webinar, feel free to drop them in the webinar chat and I will pass them along to Melanie. I
Awesome.
think, Melanie, the thing that I want to kick us off with in terms of questions is, I feel like hypnosis still has a bit of a stigma, right? So
Yeah.
the I'm going to make you look like a chicken every time I snap my fingers, um, that kind of party trick hypnosis that
Mhm.
got popular in like the 80s. How would you explain hypnotherapy to somebody in such a way that they can understand what's going on just mechanically, and recognize, because what I've discovered is I'm always still aware, right? I'm still always in a place of choice, even when I'm in trance. So,
Mhm.
kind of unpack that for people who may be interested but a little nervous about testing this modality.
You know what? I might rub a little salt first. Okay?
Perfect.
Because I think, well, my mission, my husband and I, Sean, is to actually make hypnosis better understood and more utilized by the general
Hmm.
public. So this is
Yeah.
really important to me. Um, and in doing our research, we've learned like that if you look at any of the, we're just going to call it propaganda. Most of the movies and anything that are about hypnosis, they're negative. There's like 111 of them. And I think maybe three
Mm.
have it in even in remotely positive light. So
Hmm.
um, it's funny because it's incredibly powerful and you
Yeah.
are being subjected to hypnosis in all kinds of
Every
forms
day. Oh
every day.
yeah.
In fact,
Yeah.
every time your emotions are heightened or lowered, the next thing that's said to you sinks in like lotion on dry skin. Why don't you
Mm.
go watch some ads for anything, especially drugs, and see whether they raise you to happiness or make you feel like crap before they sell you something and speak to you really, really fast into things. Listen, yeah, that's just the obvious one that I can point out. I mean,
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
literally you have propaganda. You just look at the history of propaganda and you'll understand that you have this the power of suggestion has is already happening.
Oh yeah.
And you have the decision to make of
Hmm.
whether, or how you're going to decide how you want to be suggested to, right?
Hmm.
You decide what you want to think, what you want to believe, what's empowering to you. You decide to
Hmm.
be unhypnotized from the conditioning that has been placed on you for
Yeah.
generations at this point.
Yeah. Hmm.
So hypnosis is incredibly powerful and it is used,
Hmm.
not just by hypnotists. I'm not saying hypnotists use it. I'm saying media, everything. They use it to
Yep.
keep us under a boot. The more fearful you are, the more anxious you are, the more you consume. Okay, so I'll
Hmm.
pause that salt in wound first of all, and I'll say a hypnotherapist, by definition, has received a certain amount of certification and training and ethics in that any hypnotherapist that is following what they should, and most
Hmm.
in our world do, they are only going to give suggestions that are in alignment with what you want.
Hmm.
And your mind, as you said, you're always in control. So even if I
Hmm.
said to you in hypnosis, this is the truth, because if I were to put you in trance right now, you would experience it. Even if I said, and your beautiful blonde hair when you were a child, your brain would
Hmm.
go, that's weird. Nope, blip, it was brown. Okay. And it would just go
Yeah.
blip. So you actually you are there. You're
Hmm.
there, and hypnotherapy by definition is designed to help you to achieve what you want. You
Hmm.
consciously want to break bad habits, achieve your goals, right? Consciously.
Hmm.
By definition, it's designed to get your subconscious mind on board with what you consciously want.
Right.
That is what we do. And it is
Yeah.
incredibly powerful and incredibly fast.
Hmm.
And it probably scares the heck out of people who are
Mm.
in power because it is incredibly fast. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And I just want to highlight that because I feel like a lot of people think that they are in control of their life. When
mm,
in point of fact, you are only actively, consciously making decisions less than 10% of your day,
right
right?
on.
Most of the work that you are doing, the daily thing, it's habituation, right? So you have made that decision in the past so often that you don't even have to think about it. How many of you have ever been on like autopilot when you're driving to work and you like show up at work and
Wing.
you're like, I have absolutely no recollection
I actually
of
thank my
making the
brain.
past three
I,
turns?
I hand things over to the sub a lot. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got home because I was thinking about something. That's great. Or
Yeah.
if I'm going to deliver a speech or I'm going to talk, hey, sub, you know this stuff like the back of my hand. Just let me breathe and be here. I
Yes.
don't need to be prepared. You can use it for you,
Yes.
right?
That I
Knowing
think
the
is
time.
a huge recognition is that like you can, and I talk about super conscious as well as subconscious. So you can
Yes.
access higher self and divinity as well
Mhm.
as subconscious and your somatic experience, because like
Yes.
we have ancestral knowledge in our cells and our DNA
Oh,
that
yeah.
we are accessing without even being aware of what we're doing on a daily basis. So
Right.
you've got both levels, and most of us are just trying to play in this little tiny
Mhm.
margin where we have this sense of freedom and control. But to your point, the media is using these modalities,
Not therapies.
not therapies, the modalities.
The media is suggesting things to you that are often really detrimental. But
Right. Right. So we know that we are being actively worked
yep.
upon. The
Mhm.
question is, are you going to start leveraging the power of your subconscious and start doing this intentionally so that you can create the world and life that you want to? Because the more I learn about it, the more I actually am inoculated against the other stuff, right?
Yes.
When I
100%.
when I recognize, oh, I can see what they're doing in that commercial, and then I get to choose if I want to partake in that and buy into it or not, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a really it's bringing stuff up to the level of consciousness so that we can make decisions and be more in
Mhm.
control of our lives. When you said it works quickly, I loved it, because our next question from Melissa was, how quickly does the
Mhm.
modality work? How fast can you start getting results with hypnotherapy? Let's say that you have that block
Yeah.
that if I make too much money, I'm going to have a heart attack and die. Like, how would you even get to that? How quickly could you get to that's the thing
Yeah.
that's holding me back? And then how quickly could you shift it?
One session.
One session.
Yeah, but I would always
Amazing.
say that yeah, so the intent is always that there would be the most and profound results from the very first session.
Mm,
And the work that I do, and because this is what I decided I was gonna do, okay? I
hmm
decided I was gonna help entrepreneurs overcome what they call money blocks, right? And
hmm
so we do that part in one session, but then there's layers of the onion. It's who am I now that I don't have this? And so
hmm
is one session to experience that shift from the old limiting belief, but then there's things that I do that I call wealth activation exercises,
hmm
waking hypnosis stuff, so that you can then walk through your day to day with the newfound understanding and belief about who you are, so
hmm
that it's not just something you know, because hey, you
Yeah.
can know stuff, but it's stuff that you're actively experiencing different actions in the day. Listen, you are far more powerful than you've been led to believe.
Oh,
And
yeah.
when you master your subconscious, you can live an epic, absolutely epic experience.
hmm
It it starts from relieving the pain. When we call it's pain. You feel like, "Oh,
hmm
I know I'm so much more, and why am I playing small? This hurts. It feels
Yeah.
awful, right? Oh." And you go from there and it's like, "Oh, okay, whew, you can breathe." It starts there, but
hmm
this becomes really it's a tool for self-actualization. It's not
hmm
I know that's it's a broad it's powerful, but Caitlin, this is what you're saying. You're saying,
Yeah.
"I choose. I choose my
Yeah.
experience. I choose my life. I choose not only what I think, but what I see and what I act
hmm
upon. I choose the opportunities that I will feel brave to walk towards because
hmm
of the way I've chosen to program this."
Yeah. I
And
love
listen,
it.
and this is used by Olympians and our astronauts, and, like, why the heck wouldn't it be used? Why wouldn't you? Like, hello,
Right.
why wouldn't you? It's the most powerful tool for, clearing crap and advancing, like, use it.
Yeah. So I want to have Melissa's follow-up question, but then I'm going to follow through and say, like, what is the next practical step? Um,
Yeah.
what can somebody be doing today? Because I'm assuming we can't hypnotize ourselves, but I'm curious about that.
Actually,
But
yes, you
what
can,
is
that's
the
my
next?
course. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll
Great.
come back to that. But
Yeah,
Melissa
cool.
says, how is hypnotherapy different from other therapies like EMDR that are helping access subconscious and reprogramming? What would you say?
Well, I would say I am not an EMDR practitioner. So,
Mhm.
but in my experience, I can only tell you from my experience, is that people have come who have done EMDR, and they have, in my understanding of the way it's worked from what I've heard from them, is that essentially a lot of the emotional internal triggers, like those pathways aren't triggering and causing disruption in their body, the anxiety, the different
Mhm.
things, but they're beliefs in the positive and what's possible, that hasn't been wired. So I guess you could say, I don't want to put, I'm sure it's incredibly powerful. And I've had family members who's used it, and but there's another layer. There's another level. It's first, and this is why you work with a hypnotherapist, not just in hypnosis. Because if we could all go on YouTube and listen, we'd be skinny and rich, and freaking the world would be beautiful, wouldn't it? Right? At first, you could think of it. First, we work to dissolve the negative programming, and then you install the positive, right? Or first, we dissolve the poverty programming, and then you install the prosperity programming. And I do teach, I call it Program for Prosperity. It's self-hypnosis for entrepreneurs. And it's not just about money, but it is big about money. But it's actually about prosperity. It's about all of those things. It's like us having that, you do the wheel of life, and
right. Yep.
It's like having a full tire, like instead of the big old, the bumps and lumps.
Zigzags.
Yeah. Yep. So yes, you can. Self-hypnosis is, and I teach it specifically for entrepreneurs, because look, you can work with me, and you can get yourself so far, but I want you to continue on your path, because you can only see your potential from where you're sitting. It's going to change.
Yeah.
Your potential expands as you move toward it, right? And I would hope that you would just fly. But like me, I actually have a hypnotherapist, because sometimes I still hit walls.
Yeah. And I think that's really important, because we heard this last week with breath work. Same thing. It's really difficult when you're doing these body works, these subconscious works, to do it for yourself. And I actually believe we are made for community. So
yes.
I think it's just inherent in our human nature to need others to support us in our healing process. We co-created the reality that brought us to this point. We need to co-create the reality that we want to move into next. So I think that just makes sense.
1 second before you get to the next. And for those overachievers who have found themselves in burnout, DIY has been the way. But if you don't want to get to the point where I was, where I literally lost my mind and couldn't work, then you might want to consider asking for help.
Right.
And feeling like it is safe.
That alone is the first step.
Safe, right, and good to ask for help.
Yeah.
So that you don't get to the point where you literally lose your mind. Or there's a reason why the number one cause of death for women is heart attack. And we just don't need to go there. My love, ask for help. Overachievers, please. Super achievers.
I love that. Okay, so practically speaking, what can we be doing? And then I'm going to give away your free gift. So just today, what is the next step for us? If we're like, this sounds amazing. I don't know if I'm ready to hire Melanie, although that sounds fantastic. But what's something that they can just do at home to start bringing this stuff up to the surface of awareness?
Well, that's actually what my gift is. So
love it. Perfect.
Yeah. So in the Zero Burnout Business Growth Workshop and my other work and Program for Prosperity is I actually show you ways that you can on your own find those values conflicts, those blocks, those subconscious things that are running the show. And it's interesting because as you go through them, you might think, oh, I've been working on that for years, but it's still running the show. So first is awareness, and then you can take action to change it. And I do give ways that you can change it in the workshop for free. But of course, I've got 7 or 8 different ways to do that in my Program for Prosperity. So yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. So I just dropped that link in the bottom. Mind, WORXCO.com/0. So definitely go and register for that. The other thing I was just going to notice, as you were talking about bringing it to the awareness, is I think I just need to sit down and start making a list of the things that I'm tolerating in my life right now.
Yeah.
The things that I just like, the size of my bank account, my weight, whatever it is that I'm tolerating, not excited about, right? I don't allow my life to get below 7s. I have a high expectation of what my life should be, but where am I tolerating the 7s and not saying, you know what, I'm worthy of a 10? So I think I'm going to do that personally, is just kind of do a inventory of my own life, on the wheel of life, and just say, you know what, this is a place where I am working, but I wonder how could I make it faster and easier
And
with
what
the
a
new conditioning.
perfect time of year,
Oh,
right?
right?
But I would encourage you and anybody who's thinking of doing that to consider in the past when you've looked at that, if you felt like it was I got to so that I can be good
Mm,
enough, please ditch that.
oh,
Instead,
yes.
I'm going to because I love me.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, what
doing
a
this because
beautiful.
I love me. Because I can't tell you, sometimes people come into my work and they like try to like do it like they're doing, I don't know what, a real estate license exam. Like, breathe. This is for your enjoyment of life, to actually
Yeah.
raise your set point. This is a I love me, not a I've got to be good enough, so I need to learn this money block stuff. Like, please,
Yeah.
please.
To get
Yeah.
to open up to the next level
Yes.
expansion
Right
because
on.
I love myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. What a
Yeah.
perfect way to end.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's all this is what this is about, is learning to love
Yeah.
unconditionally, love ourselves, love others, love our lives, love
Mhm.
the world. And that's the whole point. So thank you so much, Melanie. This
Oh,
has been
awesome.
such a
Thanks for having me.
pleasure. I'm so glad that we got to connect and talk.
You too.
And yeah, for those of you guys who are listening in, do consider checking out Melanie's work. And as always, feel free to visit theecstaticway.com and check in every Wednesday for more Ecstatic Business Show. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you guys
All right.
so much.
Take
Sending you lots of love.
care.
Bye.